Welcome to the Corporate Missionary Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts today, Kiana Wheeler, and I'm joined with my husband. Hi, honey.
Hey.
Matt Wheeler. And today we have a very special guest, Corey Birch, who is a good friend from church, but also is just an amazing brother in Christ. He does amazing things, and I don't want to give the full intro of what he does, so I'm going to let you introduce yourself, Corey. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So as Kiana said, my name is Corey Birch. Grew up in Orlando, so born and raised. Went to Ocoee High School locally, home of the Knights. Ended up with the same black and gold colors and going to UCF, so remained the Knight. Graduated from UCF in 2016 with a degree in electrical engineering. Joined OWOC where I met Kiana and Matt. Love these guys to death. They're the ones who got me and my now wife. At the time, just my girlfriend.
What is OWOC? You know they're going to call us out.
I apologize. OWOC. I'm just so used to just throwing that out there. Orlando World Outreach Center. Yes. Orlando World Outreach Center. So that is my church home. Love OWOC. Love the people there. Like I said, Matt, Kiana met them there, and I met my wife. So we go to church there. Been married for 6 months now, so I guess you can call us newlyweds. We're stuck in quarantine, but it's not so bad when you're stuck with the love of your life. So, people say we got an extended honeymoon because we just get to spend time together. So, yeah.
That's a good way to look at that.
Yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. Hey, I'm a simple guy. My wife will always say, like, I'm not complicated. I'm low maintenance. Just, I like the things the way they are. I'm simple, Hey, that's just me.
Sometimes it's okay to be simple. It's all right to be that way. I'm a little bit more complicated, but
I keep it simple.
Yeah, that is definitely simple.
Exactly. Balance. Exactly.
Ask me what I want to eat for dinner. It's going to change every single night.
I can literally eat the same thing for dinner every single night for like 2 weeks straight. If I'm like, as long as it's good, I'm like, hey, you can make the same thing over and over. She's like, no, we just had that 2 weeks ago. I was like, that's 2 weeks ago. Like, why can't we have it again? So, yeah, she likes to change it up.
That's her as well.
Yes, and that's why Emmy is one of my dearest friends, because we are the same, and we have a lot of the same shared interests.
Yeah, y'all connect. Me and Matt, we connect. I love you, Matt, brother.
Hey, Corey, like one of the things I wanted to share about, I know your morning routine at work is pretty cool. You shared that with me before. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do when you get to work every day?
All right. So when I get to work, I usually arrive at work around 8 o'clock. So I have an hour of quiet time to myself where I'll do my devotional, delve into some work while people aren't around, so that way I can just focus in on my work. I listen to music, whether it be praise and worship music or classical music or lo-fi hip hop is a thing I've been listening to a lot lately. But then when 9 o'clock hits, usually around between 9 and 9:15, when people start arriving here at the office, I take my morning jog around not literal jog, but I walk around I'm sweating by the time I get back to my office now. I walk around the office and actually say good morning to everybody, and I give everyone a fist bump. So that started and that started when I was an intern. It was just interesting. Like, I just wanted to get to know the people around the office I was working with. I've always been a very outgoing spirit. So I don't like to just come in, sit down, hone in, focus in on my screen and then leave. I like to communicate with people, get to know people. So I started doing a fist bump as an intern, and then it became a thing. Like, everyone was expecting it. So I better not miss a day with the fist bump, because people come by my office talking about, yo, where were you this morning? And they'll come by and give me a fist bump. Funny story. I was in the office yesterday. I had to go there to I had a review with my boss. And as I was leaving, just naturally, I walked around the office just to see who was there and just say hey to everybody who was there. So it was a handful of people. And one of the ladies who was there, she brings her daughter to work occasionally, like when school's out and stuff like that. So I met her daughter as well. And she said that her daughter asked about me. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Because I give her a fist bump when I see her daughter. And she was like, Mom, you haven't been to work? Like, no one's been at work. You've been at the office occasionally, so you don't get fist bumps from that fist bump guy anymore? No, I haven't gotten the fist bump in like 2 months. I know, it's just I don't get my fist bump fix in the morning anymore. She was like, oh man, she shared that story with me yesterday, and that was fun. So yeah.
Look at you. Making an impact beyond just your colleagues.
Yeah. So
Love
that's
it.
my morning routine.
So are you in the morning time when you're getting ready for work? Do you listen to music? Do you need that silence? What's your kind of, I guess, like mood towards all that?
So me in the morning, so I'm married, right? So I have to work my schedule with Emmy. So when I get up in the morning, typically we're quiet because she's sleeping because I get up before her, to like do a workout and stuff like that. So I'm not listening to too much. I might have my headphones on as I'm working out.
Right.
Like I said, I do my devotional typically at work. So I'll drive and then get to work. But usually in the morning, it's more so quiet time for me. It's more so quiet time, me and my thoughts. So just quiet time.
Yeah. I used to be a music person, but I think I was recently sharing with someone how I've now become a quiet person. I kind of need the dead silence. Like
Mm,
it helps me to just hear God clearer. You know, I used to like pump some Lecrae real loud in the morning, like that
mhm.
bass. Might be just because of where I'm from in Orlando, the part of town.
Yeah. I like me some bass too, Kiana. You know.
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, wow." Like, I actually don't miss it at all. I like just kind of rolling into the day with that just that nice, crisp quietness and then hearing God speak and telling me how, how he loves me. And for me,
Mhm.
it's actually impacted me a lot more over these couple of months just doing it this way. What about you, Matt?
I think it depends on the day. Like if I'm not awake,
Mhm.
some music definitely helps. I definitely need
Get you going.
something to get me moving. It helps, but I do enjoy having quiet time in the morning. Even like when I was back in my job and going to my job, I
Mhm.
kind of did like Corey. Like I get there early. I'd have my devotional. I get in my office and I just, all right, I'm gonna be quiet right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes on the way to work, I had to blast some music, make sure I'm awake. So
Yeah. You know what also changed me because I used to be a music person all the time. I used to jam the music to get me going in the mornings. But I think because of the job that I have and the position I have, it's so busy and so hectic once the day starts that I need that stillness and quietness in the morning. I kind of related to that. So my day is so busy. So the only time I get to really be still and be quiet and hear God and be in my word and stuff like that is in the morning. So I don't like to have too much going on or too much noise. So
Yeah. That's great. So tell us a little bit about work and maybe even how you would describe your influence there.
Well, my review recently was really great with my manager. He's looking to move me up the ladder because I have such a great influence. He mentioned one thing. He always says this. He was like, no one dislikes Corey. Everyone loves Corey, even if they're mad at you. Like
That's
they can't
awesome.
love you. And I think it's just an attitude that I bring to the office. So my influence is one that's very positive. So typically people on my team, even if I'm reprimanding them, like
Mhm.
they feel disappointed that they let me down. But at the same time, it's always constructive criticism. I don't like to tear people down, right? That does
Right.
no good for them, right? Then they just go home, beat themselves up and all other stuff, and it affects other areas of their lives. I tell them what they did wrong, but I'll always let them know, like, hey, there's room for improvement. Let's improve. Let's do better this next time. So I think I have a great influence on the office. My voice is always heard. I'm one of the more vocal people in my department, MEP, which stands for Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing. So I'm an engineer again. I have pretty big influence at work. So
That's awesome. And that sounds like the favor of God too, like being
definitely.
with you from your internship. I know we walked with you during your last semester of college when you were like, y'all, I don't know, it's looking a little rough.
Ooh, God opened doors on that one.
We sure did. And we're so excited that God has used you over these last, what has been like 3-4 years as you've been working in this field. And just to
Yep.
see you grow as an engineer and have this level of influence. And we want to get into some of the deeper questions where we've heard the stories we want to share with our audience, like how you've been able to share your faith at work. The
Mm-hmm.
scripture, Matthew 28:19-20, it's kind of dubbed as the Great Commission, where Jesus says to go and share the gospel to every nation, tribe, and tongue, and I'll be with you until the very end of the age. And so he's basically giving us this vision of reaching people of all nations, but also to go, right? That mission to do it. And sometimes as Christians, we look at that scripture as going abroad only, but the Great Commission includes also taking that mission and vision to work. So, how has Matthew 28 impacted your life?
For me, just going out and being a disciple, because that's what God calls us to do, is to make disciples. There was a point where I started a Bible study at my job. So, but that didn't last too long, just because people's schedules and trying to find time to meet up with each other. But one thing that I try to incorporate now that I learned over time was I was always trying to focus in and try to get people together, like maybe like, you know, a group of people to go over, you know, teachings, reading, so on and so forth. But one thing that I've learned is my life and how I live it can be one of the greatest examples, because I can be in a room in a group of people talking about the Bible, but if I'm in a meeting cursing or yelling or chewing somebody out or doing those wrong things, they see that as hypocritical, right? Like he's in these meetings trying to teach the word, but yet he's going out and throughout the day he's not putting those things into practice. It doesn't look like he's doing what he's been teaching or preaching. So just my life. I wear my heart on my sleeve. You know, I have a Bible in my office. It's visible to everybody. If anyone asks me how my weekend was, one thing I do, I'm not ashamed to share. Like I went to church. We had a great word. Or hey, I have life. Like if people are asking, oh, you're leaving early today. Oh, I'm going to Ocoee High School. I do FCA there. You know, I speak to the kids about God. So I'm not ashamed of my faith, and I just share that with people. Just like anyone would share if they were interested in basketball. The finals game was yesterday, and they came into work the next day. Like, oh, did you see that finals game type thing? Like, oh, what'd you do last night? Did you watch it? So on and so forth. I just share my faith. And if anyone asks questions about that, then I'm willing to go a little bit deeper, which it has probed into a little bit deeper conversation. But it starts just with not being ashamed and just sharing.
So I mean, Corey, you talked about just your life being an example, and even the transition to kind of maybe easy God references, saying, "Oh, I went to church." And but what do you think some of the fruit that you've seen at your job from you being an example and having those conversations with your colleagues?
It's an approach to work. So I know my influence. My work is it's high stress. You know, it's very hectic. Things are fast moving. It's easy to get lost in the day. And just get, you know, upset at people and all the other stuff. So with my faith, I'm always, I try to extend grace to everyone I interact with, right? And in doing so, I've seen other people extend that grace. One example would be, I'm a very giving person. That means like you have the heart of giving, like you love to give gifts, share, be generous. Oh, sorry, a heart of generosity. So there was an example where I was buying lunch for the entire department or the entire team. And I needed some extra hands to come out with me. And one of the guys who was with me, you know, he's kind of a vulgar person, you know, but we all love him. And he was out with me to help me bring the food back. And when we were out there, I was going to pay for the food for the entire department. But he was like, no, I got it. And we were like, we just thought that was just such a random act. Like, wow, like you're not the type of person to do this, to have that heart of generosity. Like I've never seen anything like this. And then Emmy pointed out, she was like, it was probably you and all the things that you do and how generous you are that rubbed off on him. He was like, hey, I want to be a part of that. He sees how people respect you and love you. And he's like, you know what? Maybe it's not this whole vulgar and mean streak that I have. Maybe I should do something generous and giving and loving and kind. Without recognition, like, you know, he didn't gloat about it or anything. He just did it. And we're just like, hey, you know, thank you, Richard, for, you know, sorry, said name, but thank you for doing that for us. So rubbing off in that aspect. Another story would be someone joined our church. They didn't join the church, but they've joined our live stream since we've been on this quarantine.
Awesome.
And him and his wife have been encouraged to join the marriage class. So he's been, you know, asking about that. And, you know, nothing necessarily wrong with the marriage, but obviously marriage class is also for people looking to strengthen their marriage and, you know, reapply those biblical principles that may get lost, you know, in the everyday, you know, busyness and whatnot, or may fall off to the wayside. So that was very encouraging. You know, he called me, asked me about that. And I was like, yep, really? I was like, hey, you know, sign up, tell me how it goes. I haven't taken it, but he said him and his wife are gonna sign up, and that they love joining the live streams. They love our pastor. They love the worship. So just seeing people, come together and sharing their faith and going a little bit deeper and delving a little bit deeper is just awesome.
Yeah, I love that. So tell us a little bit about maybe a story or two when you first shared the gospel at work. What was that like?
To be honest, when I think about it, about sharing the gospel, I don't think I've ever physically shared the gospel, so to speak, to somebody at work, right? Like I've never been like, hey, Jesus Christ came, lived on the earth, died for our sins, rose 3 days later. I never shared it in that respect to people at work. I've gotten people outside of work who I've worked with and brought them to like life group where I've been able to share the gospel and stuff like that, or
So
brought them
past
to
colleagues.
Sorry.
Past colleagues, you're saying? Like
Colleagues from work.
Yeah.
Exactly. But never, and that's something that I've been convicted about, right? And even in this conversation, it's like, man, I've never really shared the gospel like while at work. I've always tried to draw the people into church, and Pastor Tim talks about this too, where he's like, hey, we're to go out and make disciples. It's not always our job to bring the flock back and for him to disciple them. Like we have that. We're equipped and we're empowered to do that as well. So that's something that I'm going to have to be intentional about, right? Mm-hmm. Not just inviting them to church, but hey, I can share what Pastor was saying right here, right now. I can pray for you, which I've done. I prayed for people at work, in my office a few times. Certain situations that have been going on, but as far as sharing the gospel, I haven't shared the gospel at work, so to speak. It's more so my life as an example and trying to draw them to the water, in a sense.
And that's still great. That's still a great thing. What do you think some of the things that have held you back? Has there maybe been a time where you're like, okay, maybe I should say this right now, and then you're like, nah, I didn't. Then you didn't do it.
Yeah, obviously there are a few times where God was tugging on my heart, where someone was in my office and I was like, oh, this would be the perfect opportunity. But then it was like another thought came about, and I know that's the enemy. Like, hey, I'm too busy right now. Like, if I share the gospel with this person, this may lead to a conversation that may last 20, 30 minutes. Even if it's 5 minutes, I still got to get this task done. So I'll just do it later and then never get around to it, type thing. So I know that's just the enemy, because obviously if God wants to do his work, he'll push stuff aside for you and make a way for you. And there have been a couple opportunities I've had to share the gospel that I did not. So yeah.
That's awesome. So you don't have to use names, because we want everybody to not feel like, oh, like I'm giving away my trade secret about who I'm maybe praying or believing for. But is there anyone at work that you're currently praying for, and how is that going? Your interactions with them, do you see any progress or growth in that relationship towards?
Yes, definitely. There's a few people I prayed for, but there's one person specific that I've been praying for and believing for. Just their overall demeanor. They're easily upset, so they're very emotional at work. They're not very gracious towards other people or generous if they just have a short fuse. So me personally, I've been praying for that person. I've been sharing, my stories, and I've been trying to reflect how my life is. So I'm generous to them. Like I give them a whole bunch of grace, and a whole bunch of kindness and loving, even if things went wayside because of them, directly because of an action that they've taken. I just hey, it's fine. Hey, I still love you. We're still a team. We're still in this together. Let's move forward. And what I've seen is this person's actions have started to change in that direction, where they're not as easily upset or angered, or they're more responsive to constructive criticism where they may have not been before. Because as soon as you tell them they've done something wrong, one thing I heard Pastor Tim say recently was, correction is correct direction. So in giving him correction, this person correction, I feel like before they would get just upset. They didn't want to hear that they were wrong ever. But now that door has opened to where they can grow because they're receptive and understand that, hey, I'm not doing this because I'm bashing you at all, or because I don't like you, or that I want to see you fail. No, I want to see you grow. I want to see you operate in this field, with a sense of love that may not always be portrayed to us, but we can still be loving even though that might not be reciprocated to us. So that's just
how has that gone? Just extending that grace. I know that can be foreign to some people. Like, what's people's response to you coming with that attitude? Because I know still, like, if you're being a supervisor, you still gotta there's got to be some accountability and some direction, but also so they need to understand what they need to do, but also being able to give that grace. What has been the response and how on your colleagues?
The response has actually been pretty great. They've said to me multiple times, like, "Hey, we really appreciate." One has specifically said to me, "Hey, I've never had a manager like you. I feel like if I would have made this many mistakes with anybody else, I would have either been let go or, reprimanded much more harshly. I would have been down on myself." Like I said, I try to be constructive with my criticism, not tear somebody down and make them feel or belittle them, make them feel stupid or belittle them at all. So this person was very appreciative. They thank me constantly, at least once every couple of weeks. This person called like, "Hey, I really appreciate the time that you spend and taking to help me reach my goals and attain my goals." So.
And then even like, and then has there been improvement for them on their jobs? I know bottom line of the business, like if you're not performing,
exactly,
we still we need to be, maybe the business is going to go out of business. Like we still gotta but how has their performance improved because of your grace?
Definitely. Because I know, and this is all God's wisdom and trying to put them in the best situations to succeed. So, you can't, what's the saying? You can't judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, right? So if this person, if they're skilled in one aspect, then I'm going to put them in that field or that aspect of the project so they can excel. But also bringing them into aspects that they're uncomfortable with so that they can still grow and learn in those areas. Like, hey, if you want to attain and, be a manager or be this, you have to understand this side too. You may not like it, you may not understand it right now, but you have to devote some time. And I do have to, get you thinking about these things. You just can't be where you're comfortable. For growth to happen, there has to be pain. When you lift weights, you feel that soreness, but that soreness is growth. So those mistakes that you make, they're not failures. You're not a failure because you failed. Failure is more of a mindset. Like, hey, this failure at this moment in time doesn't define me. I am not a failure because I failed. No, I'm a overcomer, and this failure I'm going to overcome and grow from. So,
yeah,
did that answer your question, Matt?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, that's really great. I think, some of the reasons that helped launch this podcast that some Christians might identify with as it relates to why they don't share their faith at work or even the gospel is they feel unqualified, or maybe their life is just so much, they're working out so much in their own faith with God that might hinder them from sharing their faith at work, because they're like, oh, well, I'm still trying to figure out an aspect of this too, or can I really share, and there's some wisdom in studying the Bible and having the foundations built. But then it's, our encouragement with these conversations is that Christians would not just only try to get the Bible studies and get all the wisdom and get all that, and then muster up the feeling to go share after they're spiritually bloated per se, but staying active and sharing their faith and even maybe sharing what they're learning or believing for. So as Christians go through, their own little things with God, ups and downs, and maybe even you could relate to this or share something if this resonates with you, but how has maybe your ups and downs, or as you're evolving in your faith and relationship with God, how has that impacted you sharing your faith at work?
Well, it affects me in a I think in a positive way, because when I am walking with somebody, I can't expect them to be perfect, right? They're going to make mistakes. And because I make mistakes and I receive that grace and that love from God, I'm able to extend that to them, right? So if I were, like you said, if I were to walk around and, wait for me to feel ready, because in all honesty, it's more so a feeling that I have, like, hey, am I ready to share this gospel? Have I read enough? Have I prayed enough? Have I been going to church? Am I like, until you may never feel ready, because the enemy's not going to let you feel ready. They're always going to make you feel like, hey, you're not there yet. But God tells us to go, go and to make disciples. He doesn't say, hey, wait 5 years of Bible teachings to go, to go, right? So like, we are to go no matter where we are. And I know Pastor Tim did a great message on staying one chapter ahead. So as long as you're one chapter ahead of somebody, you can disciple them, no matter where you are in your walk, as long as you're one chapter ahead.
So as we kind of wrap up here, just tell us maybe some, or just encourage, I guess that's more so what I want to lean into, is what other encouragement, what should Christians even be praying for themselves as they continue to share their faith at work, or if they haven't shared their faith at work, what prayers or what scriptures would you direct them to help them feel more empowered in that area?
Well, I'll say this. Obviously, the most important time is your devotional time with God. So it's hard for me to share something that I haven't spent time doing myself, right? And I don't believe with my own heart. So if I know Matt does basketball, so he believes in basketball, so it's easy for him to share those things, right? So when he believes in something and practices something himself, it's easier to do. So I feel like sometimes people they try to share things that they don't really believe in, or that they're not involved in themselves. So first get planted. So once you get planted and get connected, then you start to get equipped and empowered by the people around you. So find that circle of people who are really going to help you reach that level of being able to share your faith with other people. And even when you share your faith with other people, don't expect a certain reaction. I know sometimes we as humans, we play out stuff in our head like, okay, if I say this and this person's going to do this and it's going to be all great and sunshine and rainbows, and they're going to come to church this upcoming Sunday, and then 2 Sundays from that, they're going to be saved and baptized. Yes, right? Like sometimes it takes a lot longer than that.
Especially when we're dealing with our colleagues. It's a relational building. It's a relation building thing that we have to do first to build that trust, because it's not instantaneous.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what I was going to get, relational, like you said, because I deal with the kids in our ministry at the church, with the Inside Out ministry. The kids aren't going to listen to you if they don't have a relationship with you, right? So they want to see your face constantly. They want to know you actually care about them. What was the saying? There's a saying like, people don't really care what you say until they know that you care about them. So to speak. I may be butchering it, but you have to build that relationship, like you said, Kiana, of just getting to know who they are. Hey, do they have any siblings? Do they have any kids? Are they married? Where they are in life? Are they happy where they are in life? And then building off that, and then starting to share, like, hey, well, here's where this is where I derive my joy from. This is where what I believe, and this will help you. Here's something that can help you attain your goals, and even help you be more positive and more impactful in your life. So be more fruitful.
Love that. Any thoughts from you, Matt?
I really love the relationship building, talking about that, because I've seen that in action. You're definitely, even from going to the gym and playing basketball, like, you're a guy that builds relationships, and I think that's a key point in sharing the gospel. Like, people need to know that you actually care about them, and then you wait for those opportunities where God gives that chance for you, and we got to listen to His voice and share what He tells us. What you're talking about earlier.
Yeah. Well, Corey, we thank you so much for joining us today. This has been amazing to hear just a small bit of your story. I know there's more that you're probably thinking about, I should have said this, but I think what you said today really is going to help those who are listening and talk. And as they're, thinking about talking to their colleagues, it's going to inspire them to share their faith. Just do it, right? My phrase that I'm kind of living by this season of my life is, don't wait, do it scared. Like, that is what I am about right now.
I like that.
So I really just want to thank you once again. And Matt, do you want to tell folks a little bit about the Bible study that we're going to be launching?
So we have a book called Corporate Missionary. My wife wrote it, and she did an amazing job.
But you edited, though.
I did do a lot of editing.
Yeah.
So we worked together on that one. Some stories, a lot of her stories of her journey at work to kind of things we were talking about with Corey, just building relationships with people and finding opportunities to share faith, failing at times and succeeding at times and growing and learning. So it's kind of a little autobiography, but also a devotional as well. So you can get some Bible study, get some scriptures in there, and help you become equipped. And I like what Corey said earlier, just being one chapter ahead, so you don't have to feel like you have to read the whole book and memorize all the scriptures to start sharing your faith. But it can help give you a little jump start and get you going in the right direction.
So if you're interested in purchasing the Corporate Missionary Bible Study, you can find us online at corporatemissionary.org or on Instagram at Corporate Missionary. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.